7. Jewelry materials. Millions of people wear every single day, and probably should not. We are counting down from cracking plastics that leach toxic pigments to a metal allergen, affecting nearly 1 in 5 women, ranking each by how badly it fails when it meets your skin, your sweat, and your daily routine. Along the way, you will encounter misleading labels, unregulated marketing terms, and finishes that dissolve in weeks. Some look identical to safe options in the display case. The difference only shows up after purchase. Starting at number 7 with a material most people never suspect could be a problem. Number 7. Acrylic and resin jewelry may look bright and playful, but their chemistry leaves them especially vulnerable to daily wear. These plastics, often used in chunky earrings, pendants, and colourful bangles, soften noticeably at skin temperature. Laboratory tests show that acrylic can lose more than 20% of its strength at just 37 degrees Celsius, the warmth of your own body. That drop in stiffness means thin pieces are prone to warping, bending, and eventually micro-cracking, especially at stress points like earring posts or bracelet edges. After a year of regular use, it is common to see fine cracks or cloudiness appear, making once clear pendants look dull and tired. But the risks go beyond breakage. Many low-cost resin and acrylic pieces are coloured with cadmium-based pigments. Under the acidic conditions created by sweat, these pigments can leach measurable amounts of cadmium, a heavy metal banned in children's jewellery across the European Union and the United States. Phthalate plasticizers added to keep the plastic flexible may also migrate out with skin contact. Testing on children's resin beads found cadmium in nearly 4 out of 10 samples, and recalls in the United States have flagged sets with levels hundreds of times above the legal limit. Even when labelled simply as acrylic or resin, there is no guarantee these plastics are free from toxic additives. For everyday wear, the combination of rapid cosmetic failure and the potential for toxic leaching makes acrylic and resin a risky choice. They may seem like a safe, metal-free alternative, but under the surface, these plastics can crack, warp, and release chemicals every time they touch your skin. Number 6. Hollow gold jewellery. Promises the shine and status of solid gold, but its structure hides a weakness that can turn everyday wear into a costly mistake. The defining feature is its ultra-thin wall, often less than 0.5 millimetre thick. At this thickness, even a simple tug or the pressure from a clasp can leave a permanent dent. Mechanical tests by jewellers show that a 0.55 millimetre hollow gold chain will dent under a force as light as 5 newtons, the kind of pressure you would use to pull a necklace over your head. Anything thinner than 0.6 millimeters is especially vulnerable, with fractures appearing at tension levels that solid gold easily withstands. The problems do not stop at dents. When a hollow gold piece splits or breaks, repairs are rarely straightforward. The metal is so thin that soldering often melts right through, leaving a weak spot that is likely to fail again. Many jewellers refuse to attempt repairs altogether, quoting full replacement costs instead. For a 14-carat hollow chain, that can mean $120 to $250 out of pocket, compared to $70 to $100 for a solid equivalent. Even a basic solder job, if accepted, often runs $30 to $45, with no guarantee of durability. The Federal Trade Commission has taken notice, logging dozens of consumer complaints each year about hollow gold chains breaking within weeks or months of purchase. In recent enforcement actions, sellers have faced fines for mislabeling thin-walled pieces as solid gold, highlighting just how blurred the line can be between appearance and substance. Hollow gold may look like a bargain, but for daily wearers, its hidden fragility and high repair costs make it a structural time bomb waiting to go off. Number 5. Ultra-thin, gold-plated fashion jewellery may promise the appearance of luxury, but its reality is a fast track to disappointment for daily wearers. The secret lies in the thickness of the gold itself. Most mass-market pieces use electroplated gold, measured in fractions of a micron. Typical plating is less than 0.1 micron thick, making it 700 times thinner than a human hair. That delicate surface is no match for the abrasion of skin, clothing, and sweat. In practical terms, the gold finish on a necklace or bracelet can vanish within 30 to 60 days of regular use, exposing the base metal beneath. Once the gold wears off, the underlying alloy, often a mix of copper and nickel, begins to react with skin and air. This is where green or black stains appear on wrists, necks, and ears. For many, the exposure also triggers allergic reactions, with nickel in particular causing redness and itching in up to 17% of women and 3% of men. The problem is compounded by the lack of legal standards in the United States. There is no minimum thickness for the term gold-plated, so a piece with a barely there coating can still be marketed as such. The Federal Trade Commission requires only that claims about precious metals be truthful, but in practice most fast fashion jewellery skirts the spirit of the rule while staying within the letter. Consumer complaint data and social media are filled with stories of gold-plated finishes that fade in a matter of weeks. Instagram reels and Facebook videos from jewellery advocates regularly highlight pieces that lose their shine almost overnight. Buyers are left with tarnished, sometimes irritating metal that looks nothing like what they saw in the display case. For anyone considering a bargain gold accessory for everyday use, the lack of plating thickness disclosure and the near certain risk of rapid finish loss make these items a poor investment. Before buying, ask for the actual thickness of the gold layer. If the answer is vague or unavailable, the finish is likely to disappear before the season changes. Number 4. Vermeil is often sold as an affordable upgrade over basic gold-plated jewellery, but the reality depends entirely on what is beneath the surface. The true standard for vermeil is strict, a solid sterling silver base coated with at least 2.5 microns of gold at 10 carats or higher. That thickness isn't just a technical detail, it is what separates a piece that can handle daily wear from one that fades like bargain plating. Yet in the real world, the vermeil label is routinely misused. Investigations by the Federal Trade Commission found vermeil-marked necklaces averaging just 0.9 microns of gold, barely a third of the legal minimum. Some pieces skip the sterling silver core altogether, swapping in base metals that can corrode or trigger skin reactions as soon as the gold wears thin. The consequences show up fast. When the gold layer falls short of the 2.5 micron rule, everyday friction from clothing, sweat, and skin strips it away in months, not years. The finish dulls, patches of silver or base metal peek through, and any claim of luxury quickly disappears. Unlike solid gold or even properly made vermeil, these underplated pieces fail visually and structurally, often leaving buyers with nothing but tarnish and disappointment. The FTC has begun cracking down, fining sellers and forcing corrective advertising for those who misuse the vermeil label or fudge the gold thickness. For consumers, the lesson is clear. The vermeil name only means something if the brand can prove both the sterling silver core and the 2.5 micron gold layer. Without that, you are paying a premium for a finish that wears away like the cheapest plating. Before buying vermeil for everyday use, ask for the gold thickness in microns and demand proof of a sterling silver base. If the answer is vague or missing, the vermeil claim is likely just another marketing trap, one that leaves you with a piece that won't last through the season. Number 3. Brass and other copper-based costume metals are a common sight in affordable jewellery, but their chemistry brings a set of problems that go far beyond simple tarnish. Brass is an alloy of copper and zinc, and when it sits against skin, moisture and sweat set off a chain reaction. The copper reacts with acids and salts from sweat to form basic copper carbonate, a greenish compound that transfers directly onto your skin. This is the classic culprit behind the green stains left on fingers, wrists and necks after wearing brass rings or bangles for just a few hours. Dermatologists have traced these stains to the same copper salts that give aged statues their patina, but on your skin, the effect is anything but decorative. The cosmetic nuisance is only the beginning. For a significant number of people, copper-based jewellery can trigger a delayed hypersensitivity reaction known as contact dermatitis. Patch test studies estimate that up to 5% of dermatitis cases are linked to copper exposure, with symptoms ranging from redness and itching to blistering rashes that may take days to subside. The reaction is not always immediate, and it can develop after repeated exposure, especially in those with sensitive skin or a history of metal allergies. Unlike the fleeting annoyance of a green stain, copper-induced dermatitis can linger for weeks and often requires medical treatment. While some jewellery brands claim that a lacquer coating or anti-tarnish finish will prevent staining, these barriers wear off quickly with daily use. Once the protective layer breaks down, the underlying metal resumes its reaction with sweat and the cycle starts anew. Even so-called nickel-free brass is not immune, because copper itself is a known sensitizer, and the problem is compounded by the zinc and trace metals present in many costume alloys. The risk is not limited to rings and bracelets, earrings, watch backs, and necklace clasps made from brass or copper alloys can all provoke both visible staining and immune responses. For anyone considering brass or copper-based jewellery for everyday wear, the reality is clear. These metals are chemically active, easily oxidised, and capable of turning skin green within hours. More concerning is the potential for chronic irritation or allergic reactions that can escalate with repeated exposure. While they may offer an appealing price and vintage look, brass and copper-based pieces bring a double burden of cosmetic and immunologic harm, making them a risky choice for daily use. Number 2. The phrase surgical steel appears everywhere in jewellery marketing, promising a level of safety and purity that sounds medical grade. But in reality, there is no legal definition for surgical steel in the United States, and the term is often used to mask the presence of nickel, one of the most common triggers of allergic contact dermatitis. Stainless steel itself is a family of alloys, many of which contain up to 10% or more nickel to boost corrosion resistance and shine. The problem is, those same nickel levels can provoke rashes, itching, and even blistering in sensitive wearers. Patch test surveys show that up to 17% of women and 3% of men react to nickel, with rates highest among those who wear jewellery daily. The marketing disconnect came to a head in 2022 when the Federal Trade Commission settled a case against a major watch brand that had sold surgical steel watches containing more than 10% nickel. Lab tests found these watches failed the ASTMF 2923 skin irritation standard, and the company paid a $1.2 million penalty for misleading consumers with claims of hypoallergenic safety. The Federal Trade Commission's ruling made it clear, unless a product can prove it meets the strict nickel release limit of 0.5 micrograms per square centimetre per week, labeling it as surgical or hypoallergenic is considered deceptive. Unlike regulated terms such as sterling silver or vermeil, surgical steel has no statutory alloy requirement. That leaves room for manufacturers to use low-cost stainless grades like 304 or 316L that still contain significant nickel. For buyers, the result is a false sense of security. A piece stamped surgical steel might look like a safe bet, but it can still trigger the same allergic reactions as any other nickel-bearing metal. Consumer lawsuits and regulatory fines have increased as people discover their supposedly hypoallergenic jewellery causing persistent rashes, especially in earrings, nose rings, and other high-contact pieces. For everyday wearers, the lesson is simple. Do not trust the label alone. If a piece claims to be surgical steel but offers no proof of nickel release testing, it is a gamble, one that can end with red, irritated skin and little recourse. Ask for documentation or third-party certification before trusting any surgical or hypoallergenic claim. In the jewellery world, marketing language sells the promise, but only rigorous testing reveals the real risk. And finally, in first place, nickel-containing alloys top the list as the single most hazardous material for everyday jewellery wear. Nickel is everywhere in the world of affordable accessories, hidden in everything from earrings and rings to watch backs and necklace clasps. Yet behind the shine lies a medical epidemic. Clinical studies estimate that about 17% of women and 3% of men are sensitised to nickel, with rates climbing even higher among teenagers and daily jewellery wearers. The reaction is not subtle. Type 4 hypersensitivity, also called allergic contact dermatitis, typically erupts 12 to 48 hours after exposure. Redness, itching, blisters, and thickened skin can persist for weeks, especially if the jewellery stays in place. For some, the rash becomes chronic, flaring up again with the slightest contact, turning a simple pair of earrings into a lifelong trigger. The real danger is invisible. Nickel ions leach out of alloys when exposed to sweat, water, or even the moisture on your skin. In the European Union, regulators set a strict release limit, no more than 0.5 micrograms of nickel per square centimetre per week, verified by the EN 1811 2023 laboratory test. Anything above that is considered unsafe for prolonged skin contact. Enforcement is not theoretical. Since the latest harmonisation of EN 1811, the European Chemicals Agency has issued 15 recall notices in just the past year, forcing importers to destroy non-compliant jewellery or face market bans. These are not isolated incidents. National authorities in France, Germany and the UK regularly seize shipments, levy fines, and require retailers to prove their products pass the nickel release test. In the United States, the lack of a binding federal limit means consumers have little protection beyond voluntary industry claims, leaving millions at risk of developing a nickel allergy with every new piece. Nickel-induced dermatitis is more than a nuisance. Once sensitized, the immune system remembers for life. Future exposures can trigger faster, more severe reactions. Dermatologists warn that even brief, repeated contact can lower the threshold for an outbreak, especially in children and anyone with eczema or a compromised skin barrier. The impact goes beyond the skin. Ongoing inflammation can disrupt sleep, limit daily activities, and even require prescription steroids or immunosuppressive creams to control symptoms. For many, the only real solution is total avoidance, a challenge when nickel is so rarely disclosed on labels and when nickel-free claims often lack any laboratory proof. Regulators, consumer advocates, and medical experts agree nickel-releasing alloys are the leading cause of jewellery-related allergic reactions worldwide. Their prevalence, the chronic nature of sensitization, and the sheer number of market recalls make them the ultimate never-buy material for anyone considering jewellery for daily use. No marketing language or surface finish can guarantee safety unless the piece is certified to release less than 0.5 micrograms of nickel per square centimetre per week. Without that proof, every nickel-containing item is a gamble, one that can leave a lasting mark long after the shine fades. Across all 7 entries, one pattern stands out. Most mass-market jewellery is engineered for price and appearance, not for real-world contact with your skin. Allergens, fading, and hidden metals turn everyday accessories into daily risks, often without warning. The real cost isn't just green fingers or tarnish, but chronic irritation and misleading safety claims. In jewellery, what you don't know can wear on you every single day.